Welcome once again to the 1988 Whitley Rose Queen Fete. We are blessed with fine weather once again. Thomas the Tank Engine is ready to go once his passengers, members of Whitley Playgroup, are on board. The Playgroup are celebrating 18 years of successful preschool education. The Thomas the Tank trailer, pulled by John Pace on his tractor, was decorated by Mrs. Lynn Stubbs of Greenall's Common. Tension mounts in the playground as the time for moving off looms up rather more quickly than expected. Robert Horton has to make doubly sure that there is going to be no last-minute hiccups in the procession. The Queen-elect, Catherine Brock, takes the occasion in her stride, and Crown-bearer Peter Schofield has to concentrate on not dropping the crown. As the procession approaches Town Green, we can see that somebody has been very keen to decorate one of the lampposts for the day. What about a best dressed lamppost competition next time? I don't know who is in the kangaroo suit, but they certainly have plenty of bounce. The Women's Institute Parade has the Australian Bicentenary celebrations as its theme this year. The Reverend Whitwell joins the procession this year, proudly displaying his robes as a freeman of the borough of Shrewsbury. Mr. Len Andrews, conductor of the Warrington Youth Band, enters the arena in his usual orderly style. The retiring Queen, Susie Haley, makes sure her retinue, Angela Blaw, Christine Eaton, Katie Innes and train bearers Joe Horton and Russell Orme are seated before returning to escort the Queen-elect, Catherine Brock, to her throne on the stage. Mr. Cyril Littler, chairman of the Rose Queen Committee, opened his speech by welcoming everyone to the 1988 Whitley Rose Queen fete. Mr. Littler is a long-standing serving member of the community. His family go back a long way in Whitley village life. Mr. Littler has been chairman of the committee now for the last 3 years. Mr. Arms delivers his presidential speech, and while he extols the virtues of village community life, we will take a look at the faces of a few of the younger members of the village. Mrs. Horton, a lifelong member of the village, proudly crowns Catherine Brock as the 1988 Whitley Rose Queen. Catherine's retinue, chief attendants Emma and Helen Vaughan, and attendants Vanessa Blaw and Julia Barron, and train bearers James Clark and Matthew Garside, sit quietly waiting for the next event. Rachel Barron presents her flower spray to Mrs. Horton. Gypsy girl Michelle Donnellan to Mrs. Arms. Australian boy Richard Horton says, "Good day, mate, mind the koala bears," to Mr. Arms. Samantha Bennett to Mrs. Littler. And Mr. Littler receives his spray from Simon Rutter, assisted by his sister. The Rose Queen Committee gift was presented by Mrs. J. Dutton. Everyone looks forward to the short interval for photographs to be taken and gifts to be given by friends and family. Children's Fancy Dress Parade always attracts great interest. Fireman Christopher Newton and Crocodile Dundee Mark Wareys. Noddy and Paddington Bear, Jack and Edward Stubbs. Cowboy Andrew Percival. Another noddy Richard Huff, and yet another cowboy Matthew Law, and tennis player Henry Woods. Big Chief Noisy Sam Whitfield. Knave of Heart Mark Elliott. Carol Borg Munro as a mischievous elf. The judges this year are Katrina and Jeff Collinson. It is difficult to choose a winner from so many original costumes. Prize winners are a very reluctant noddy, Jack Stubbs. Wow, look what I've got, Mum. Big Chief Noisy, Sam Whitfield. And a very eager Crocodile Dundee, Mark Wareys, who can't wait to get his prize.
Watch me wallabies feed, mate. Watch me wallabies feed. They're a dangerous breed, mate. So watch me wallabies feed all together now. Tie me kangaroo down, sport. Tie me kangaroo down. Tie me kangaroo down, sport. Tie me kangaroo down. Keep me cockatoo cool.
The theme for the Women's Institute Novelty Parade was Australia's bicentenary celebrations. Captain James Cook discovered Australia in 1770. Formal possession on behalf of the British Crown was not taken until 1788. On January the 20th, 1788, 8 months and 1 day after their departure from England, the ships of the First Fleet anchored in Botany Bay, a few miles south of Sydney. Here we see some of the more familiar Australian characters represented, ranging from the Aborigines and the early convict settlers to the megastar Dame Edna Everage and popular film hero Crocodile Dundee.
Now take me koala back, Jack. Take me koala back. He lives somewhere out on the track. So take me koala back.
I'm glad it was stuck, Bill. I'm glad it was stuck. Don't let him go round in a mugbill. I'm glad it was stuck all together.
Tie me kangaroo down, sport. Tie me kangaroo down. Tie me kangaroo down, sport. Tie me kangaroo down. Tie me kangaroo down, sport. Tie me kangaroo down. Tie me kangaroo down, sport. Tie me kangaroo down. Hand me hide when I'm dead, friend. Hand me hide when I'm dead. So he tanned his hide when he died. Flying.
And that's it, hanging on the shelf.
The children of Whitley School take to the field to demonstrate the skill of maypole dancing. Miss Brown keeps an eye on the situation to make sure there are no tangles. Tension mounts as Mrs. Whittaker crosses her fingers and toes and hopes that everything goes according to plan. The group is called Cumberbatch Morris. It has been in existence about 3.5 years. They meet every Tuesday night in the Memorial Hall in Cumberbatch. They tend to do dances which are local to Cheshire, but also do some dances from the Cotswolds. The implements used are usually short sticks, bells, ribbons, handkerchiefs or garlands. Dances will be performed at a particular time of year, depending when their carnivals were. In some places it would be Wake Week, or perhaps the August Bank Holiday, or Whitsuntide. May the 1st is the normal day for starting a season, and it goes on until October. In spite of being a North West team, they do not wear clogs because most Cheshire people didn't. Kate relaxes and watches the Morris dancing in the comfort of her car. The Warrington Youth Band leads the Queen out of the arena where they retire for tea. And now it is time for everyone to explore the sideshows and spend, spend, spend. Dig deep, the best is always at the bottom. This year, a good bargain was to be found at the flower stall, where some marvellous blooms were displayed. Mrs. Winstanley is tempted to buy one too. All hands on deck. The volunteers who man the tombola stall are really busy all afternoon. Try your skill at the skee ball. It's harder than it looks, says Joe Cool. Dig the shades, Mr. Straw. Better luck next time, Mr. Clark. This is the way to get a good score at bowling. Just watch this space.
We get the first little piggy up, and this little piggy's called Snotty, so everybody say hello to Snotty. Hello there, boys and girls. Now then, Snotty, what would you like to do? Well, I'd like to live in a house made of straw, because the big bad wolf, he'll never get into that, will he, children? Oh, no, he won't. If you see the big bad wolf, you will tell me, won't you, children? Have you seen him? Was he there? What, down there? He didn't shout very loud. Where was he then? I'm going so let me in. And what does the little pig say? By the hair of my chinny chin chin will I open the...
Children love the high-flying escapade on the parachute. I'd rather have my wheels firmly on the ground. Step right up for the fun of the fair. Tummy churning rides for the children ensure that Mum and Dad have a quiet few minutes to themselves. I've had enough. The tug-of-war tradition is carried on by the boys and girls of the village, with the girls usually doing the winning.
I wish you never did. No, we'll both regret it. That little chip of diamond on your hand mean a fortune, baby, but you know it stands for the love. Oh, love, you try and bind us. We just can't leave behind us, baby. And stay in the hang on to what we got. Don't let those girls be
It's a tiring job watching this tug-of-war.
do what we got.
Blues versus the Reds adult three-legged football match, a game which provides plenty of ups and downs on both sides and plenty of laughs for the spectators. The referee certainly has his job cut out in keeping law and order on the field. Here's Harry Taylor, waiting for a turn on the roundabout. The Reverend Whitwell shows how versatile he is. There's not many adults who can meet the challenge of the greasy pole and win, even if his slightly smaller opponent is not too happy about it. The sun is still shining as the grand draw brings the day's events to an end. Rose Queen Catherine Brock draws the winning number, bringing a smile to the face of Mrs. Pitchford. The excellent selection of prizes always attracts a large number of patrons to the draw. Pat Lickler goes to pieces in front of the camera. So do other people.